Motorhead Garage, the program that each week introduces you to and shows you how to install the latest in exciting and innovative products for your vehicle. Now here's your host, Dave Dobson.
Hey there, Motorheads. This is Motorhead Garage presented by DragonfireTools.com, and this is an unbelievably cool 1960 El Camino. Amazing paint on that. Same with the Volkswagen Beetle we have over here. And let's talk about paint, Tommy. For pros, the process of picking what you need for a job or for a customer can be really time consuming.
Absolutely.
And for an amateur and somebody who doesn't paint a lot, they might not even know what they need in the first place. And so at the Spray Source, you've solved those problems. How have you done it?
Yeah, so I built out a kit. You just kind of choose, you basically grab your car, you figure out the size, what you need, what color you want, and we built out a full kit with just 4 simple questions. And you get everything you need from start to finish depending on what you chose.
What are those questions that you ask?
So obviously the size of the car or the vehicle, the temperature you're going to be spraying in, so different reducers, different hardeners, that kind of stuff that you really need. And then also you need to figure out if it's going to be a basic job like a scuff and shoot, more like this car, or like a full metal up restoration like this one.
And let's talk about the different kinds of jobs.
Yeah.
So the scuff and shoot, this El Camino came, they didn't do a whole lot of body work on
Exactly.
it. Didn't take it all the way down to the metal. So that's what you call a scuff and shoot.
Exactly, yeah. They literally scuffed it with a scuff pad and sprayed the base coat right over the existing, it was originally red, and then the pearl, and then the clear coat, and that's the scuff and shoot.
And there's the light body work too, and what would that be like?
Yeah, so that would be, I mean, it'd be basically this job, but if they fix some of the dents, right? So they wouldn't take it the whole way to metal. They would just basically do the body work and then spot prime and then wet sand it and then go straight to color.
All right, let's talk about something like this Volkswagen Beetle. It's a 1970, it's spectacular. I looked at the paint, there's 4 different colors at least that I can see right now, just checking it out. And that was all the way down to the metal. That was a complete restoration.
Yeah.
And so you offer kits for folks that are doing metal up as well.
Exactly.
So what kind of products are we looking at for a metal up job?
So on this one, you would get all of the primers you need, all of the sealers, all the reducers, all the clear coats, and everything in between. So for this specific job, it starts with the epoxy, and then goes to the high build, and then to the sealer, then the base coat, and then the clear coat.
You may not know when you go to the auto parts store to pick up your paint, you might be choosing different brands and mixing and matching. Why is that problematic?
Different solvents, different resins, all that kind of stuff. Like our products are all made to go together, so it eliminates all of the hurdles that you have whenever you're trying to get the paint for a job.
And another problem too, you don't know if you need a gallon or 10 gallons.
Exactly.
And I suppose that's why you asked how big is the car?
Exactly, yeah. So no matter what you choose, you get different components, different amounts of the components, and it kind of builds everything you need for that exact reason.
And let's talk about color options at the Spray Source.
So we offer ranging colors from this that has 5 to 7 colors in it to just a solid, no pearls, no metallic type of job, and everything in between.
What really spawned this whole idea of the Spray Source for you? You've been painting for about a decade now?
Yeah. So
what was the inspiration for this?
Yeah, so I actually started a custom color line when I was in high school, and it kind of grew into this, and I ended up buying the Spray Source, changing basically everything on it, and wanted to be really oriented about the full line of paint and body and tools and that kind of stuff, because there's just not something like that on the market right now.
We touched on professionals using this. How many of your customers are pros, and how can it help them in their business?
Yeah, so a large majority of our customers are, professional restoration or custom shops, and this whole kit, where it looks like it would be more geared towards the DIYer, it really is going to save a lot of the professionals a lot of time estimating, and also they're going to get more than enough product to do the entire job. I know personally, whenever I was doing jobs, if I was going to run out of base coat, you were trying to squeeze every little bit, and you want to make sure you have more than enough, and most of the time send a little bit home so it matches perfect if they have to respray something.
And if you're saving time estimating a job, you're also saving the customer some money.
Exactly. You're saving your time. You don't have to hire someone because most of the time they have someone in the front ordering products and doing the estimating. This will take 5 minutes rather than 2 or 3 hours.
And what if I'm an amateur, I haven't painted very much, or I'm a pro and I've never used your product line? How can you help me learn how to do it?
So I have videos all over the website, even on the pages that you'll be able to build out the kit. You'll have little question marks that you can press, and a little video would show and basically walk you through the whole process. And when you order one of the kits, when it ships to your door, you're going to get a little card that has all the steps, as well as a QR code that will go to specifically the video. That'll tell you the whole process.
But it doesn't just stop at paint and paint prep. What other kind of products do you sell on the website?
So we sell everything that you could need to do any job like this. So we have everything ranging from spray guns to the tape to the masking to the body fillers and everything in between.
You have all the instructional videos and everything to go with that. What if I'm still having questions about how to apply any of this?
Yeah, so we have a full-time customer service team. You can reach them either by call, email, or the chat directly on the website.
To say that the Spray Source simplifies things would be understating it. This is going to make your life a whole lot easier if you're a pro or if you're just getting started painting. You can find all of this and more at thespraysource.com. And you can find more Motorhead Garage presented by DragonfireTools.com just around the corner. Keep it right here.
Motorhead Garage, presented by DragonfireTools.com, is brought to you by RockAuto.com. All the parts your car will ever need. Campbell's Custom Care, your detail specialist. And by PaintedAutoBodyParts.com, the leading U.S. auto body parts online store.
This is Motorhead Garage presented by DragonfireTools.com. Now, Motorheads, I know you've done this before. You've gone to jump a vehicle, you get the jumper cables in there and you stick them on the post and they keep popping off. And that's because the posts on these GM side post batteries are so small. It's just a little nut. And I wish somebody would come up with a better battery bolt. Rod, you've got a better battery bolt. How does it work?
I do, Dave.
Yeah, and I know it was born out of frustration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One night, trying to jump a vehicle in a rainstorm, go to clip on to one battery. As I go to clip onto another battery, I come back to find these off, put these back on, and come to find out the one on the vehicle, they came off too.
Keep coming off. Anytime you put a little pressure on them, they come right off just because of the way they're
It was
designed.
a bad comedy show.
Yeah,
And I knew there had to be a better way.
And it's happened a million times to me when you jump in somebody else's vehicle. And
No doubt.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of space in there either, so there's only a certain way to actually put the jumper cables in.
That's correct.
So you ended up soaking wet, but you also came up with an idea that was born from that. And it's called the Better Battery Bolt. How does it work?
Correct. So basically, with the jumper cables falling off, with no surface to grab onto, create a new version where they're ribbed so the jumper cables can bite onto the ribs and stay on.
And it's extra large there, as you can see here. This one holds on a lot easier, and it's going to be hard to get that off there, off the Better Battery Bolt. So a couple of things that make it unique. The ribs on there.
Correct.
That's something that you don't find even on a top post battery that has a big enough post for
Correct.
everything to grab onto. You've got that, and also the extra length makes it easy. But installing it is also super simple. I know that to get one of these off, it's somewhere between a 7 and an 8 millimeter wrench, depending on where it was made or when it was made.
If it was damaged previously, you don't know
Right.
what size it is now, so you end up grabbing a pair of pliers,
Yep.
Which is the wrong thing to do.
Yep.
So we came out with a new version of this where it's just a 1/4 inch socket design where the ratchet wrench fits right in, and now the bolt becomes the socket.
Fantastic. Yeah, so you don't have to look for that 10 millimeter wrench that everybody's trying to find in their toolbox.
Everybody has a 1/4 inch ratchet.
You got it. Very cool. Now, who's using the Better Battery Bolt? Who's this really aimed at?
So anybody that has a vehicle from 1972 on that still has the side post battery, they'll love this invention. People that are in autocross have asked for, this type of bolt design.
And why's that?
Well, they're easy to change batteries in and out of if they have to do something in a quick fashion. And if you're up against a tight area with the covers on it, there's no way for the battery itself to bump into something in a tight space.
Gotcha. The Better Battery Bolt also comes with a cover for the positive and the negative as well.
Right, to prevent any shorting out with anything that's close to the terminals.
So the autocross guys, that's a perfect example where you might want that cover and the battery
Yep.
starts bouncing around
Yeah,
on you.
autocross, hot rodders, people that are now doing LS swaps in other vehicles that have space constraints, this is perfect for them.
And in the same vein, you mentioned the hot rodders, people that are building street rods and that sort of thing. Why is the side post battery a good option for them a lot of times?
If they're storing their hot rod in, for months at a time, they want to clip on a trickle charger, they can do so by just adding a pair of clips to the charger and it stays on.
And it's the same old story here. If you're using a trickle charger, you put the trickle charge on one side and one little bump of the vehicle and that comes right off. Here it's going to stay on with the Better Battery Bolt a lot easier.
And it'll be ready for you to fire up when you come back to start your car.
And you know how it is, you trip over the cord or something like that and it would yank out if it was on this side and you're not going to be able to run your hot rod next time you get to the garage.
Absolutely.
Even though this is incredibly innovative, there's one little tweak that you've made and it's made a lot of difference for some people.
Yes, it was a longer design because I designed it off of one particular vehicle.
So that's the original right there.
That's the original length. And we got some feedback saying, I have tight spots. I like to get into it somewhere tighter, so I made it a little bit smaller.
Gotcha.
So it's still designed with the ribs, it's still designed with the 1/4-inch insert, so you can still use the 1/4-inch ratchet.
And that's still going to give you enough to grab onto with your jumper cable?
Oh, absolutely, as we demonstrated here.
Very cool. This is an easy way to make life a lot more convenient for you, whether you've got a street rod or if you just want to have it on your vehicle in case you need to jump it and you get one of those rainy days, you don't want to get soaked out there and you don't want to be frustrated. You want to be on your way as quickly as possible. Where can folks find the Better Battery Bolt?
So simply go to betterbatterybolt.com, and for our Canadian friends, they can search eBay for Better Battery Bolt.
Well, you've got to be nuts not to try these bolts. These are incredible. These are a life changer if you've got to get into a tight space or if you've got to put a trickle charger on your car. We'll be right back with more Motorhead Garage presented by DragonfireTools.com, so keep it right here.
Motorhead Garage, presented by DragonfireTools.com, coming to you from the Campbell's Custom Care Studio.
Motorhead Garage is presented by DragonfireTools.com. All right, Motorheads, forget everything you know about bump stops. Well, you're already done? That's right, because nobody thinks about bump stops. A lot of people don't even know what they are. So, Curtis, explain to me what a bump stop is and how it works.
The bump stop's intention is to prevent the shocks from overcompressing. Most bump stops are frame mounted, and as the suspension travels upwards, they'll make contact with this. And from the factory, the only intention is to prevent metal-to-metal contact. For most on-road applications, it's sufficient. Toyota puts this void in their rubber bump stop to give it a little bit of progression. The truth is it still feels rock hard on impact and not very efficient.
So you're not hitting metal, but it feels like you are.
Yes.
With the OEM. So you've improved on that here at Duro Bumps. Explain how yours is different than the OEM.
Well, our bump stop is slightly taller than the OEM bump stop with the intention of it compressing under load to slow the up travel inertia prior to providing the ultimate stop. Most of our customers don't realize they've engaged the bump stop because we're doing such a good job slowing down that wheel travel, and it really provides smooth, progressive engagement and dampening.
Well, how do you do that?
Well, all of our bump stops are made with several different layers of rubber that are a different durometer. Durometer is the firmness or softness of rubber. This particular bump stop has 3 layers of rubber in it, and that's what allows our solid mass of rubber to compress more similar to a coil spring.
Very cool. And this is sort of the OEM replacement. And let's look at the front one too. This is pretty laughable. This is what you'd see on the stock vehicle behind us. This is what we took off. And it's not really budging at all. It's kind of like a door stop, and that's it. So explain how that's different from the stock.
Yes. So this bump stop is slightly taller than the OEM bump stop, but it'll actually compress down to the same height, just like our rears do. Up front on these Toyota platforms, this guy's doing magic. You notice this in town, driving across railroad tracks, potholes. This will save your shocks from overcompressing and damaging them. A lot of our customers invest into aftermarket suspension, spend a few $1,000s on their shocks, but there's no insurance for that shock. Duro Bumps are insurance that protect your shock, protect your investment from overcompressing, which prematurely blows out the shock seals.
Now, this is for the Toyota. Is everything you make model specific?
Yes, currently we have all Toyota vehicle applications from Land Cruiser 80s, 100s, 200s. We've got the Lexus GX, LX platforms. We have all the late model 4Runners, Tacomas. We do everything in-house, from making our molds, CAD design, all of our testing. All of our products are purchased in America. Everything is made 100% in Phoenix, Arizona.
Very cool. What are some of the things you're considering for each make and model that you're putting these on when you're designing them?
Well, that's a great question. On the front of these Toyota applications, we don't have too much shock to work with, shock stroke. So we only offer a single size for the front. If we were to offer extended sizes, that would make a dangerous road condition, as we're not having enough dampening with the shocks prior to the bump stop engaging, and you're pretty much pogo sticking off of your bump stop, which is very dangerous.
Yeah.
But for the rear of the trucks, we have a lot more shock travel to work with. So we offer a equivalent of a OEM bump stop with a 2-inch spacer. And for a taller shock option, we also offer a 5 1/4 inch, which is the equivalent of a 3-inch spacer with your OEM bump stop. And the intentions of the different heights are to accommodate all the available shock lengths sold for these platforms.
Well, if you go with Duro Bumps, you're going to save your shocks from some damage. If they happen to bottom out, you're going to save all kinds of other parts on your car because there's going to be less shock happening when you're on the trail. You can find them at durobumps.com. Get a more comfortable ride, get a safer ride, and perform better with Duro Bumps. We'll be right back with more Motorhead Garage presented by DragonfireTools.com, so keep it right here.
Motorhead Garage, presented by DragonfireTools.com. Industrial workbenches with integrated tool storage. And brought to you by Amsoil, the first in synthetics. Next Gen, the most powerful detailing products ever made. And by Custom Auto Sound, the originator of classic car OEM fit radios since 1977.
Well, Motorheads, you're looking at a radiator there. That one's from a Honda, and here's a cross section of one here. These are the tubes, and of course we know that fluids pass into the radiator, into the cooler, and it gets the cool air off of there, keeps all those fluids cool, keeps your engine running well at the optimal temperature. And you guys at FVP here, Cam, you guys do an amazing job constructing the coolers on the side of the radiators. Show me how they're built with FVP.
Absolutely. So we always try and put at least the same, if not more, amount of cooling into every radiator that we produce. That way it meets the OE capacity for cooling. And unfortunately, not all of our competitors feel the same.
Unfortunately for you guys.
Right. That makes it nice for us.
Yeah, unfortunate for the folks out there that might buy one of these. So how are they skimping on stuff out there?
So the biggest thing is we'll have guys where they cut down by 60% how much cooling they're actually putting in there, to where you can noticeably see the difference in how much cooling capacity is in that core.
What are some other things FVP is doing to make sure you guys are even above the OEM standards in a lot of cases?
Another thing that we do is these stainless steel reinforcement strips on a lot of the truck applications or anything that's going to be seeing a heavy duty use. We clamp that onto the tank, and it actually boosts the clamping capacity by about 40% or so.
Oh, very
so
cool.
You really get a good seal.
That's great. And you guys also go a long way at FVP to make sure that I've got everything I need to install this when it's coming to my door.
Absolutely. So we always include new hardware. That way you don't have to reuse the original stuff, anything that could be worn down, that could even be leaking. So we always try and put new parts in there. We'll even include some of the tools that are necessary if it's a common use item, like on these quick disconnect fittings. We'll include the slip clamp that releases the line out of it.
Well, heat is the enemy and FVP is the solution. You can find their products at rockauto.com, along with all the parts your car will ever need.
Way of life, power and dreams, and let the good times roll. Welcome to this Amsoil Tech Tip. Now, those are all slogans when it comes to metric bikes. What is a metric bike? Well, we're talking about Yamaha, Suzuki, Honda, and of course Kawasaki. And those bikes, well, they need service too. You can see it right here. Performance, the checklist, the oil filter, everything needs to be done. But what you notice here, there's just oil and replace the oil. There's no primary, there's no secondary, there's no gearbox. Everything's done in one unit. Now, what's the difference between the two? Here's an actual American-made bike here. You can see, like a Harley, it's actually air-cooled versus the liquid-cooled. So you got liquid-cooled, it's not going to run as hot. But really neat, if you look at the exploded view of the motor there, well, you got the crankcase, you got the wet clutches, you got everything in there. The connecting rods all need to be lubricated, and Len, they need to be lubricated with one oil. That's a tough job to do. Amsoil has us covered there as well.
Is our Metric Series motor oil. That's got a big job to do. We're talking about the transmission, we're talking about wet clutch, we have mechanical shear, we've got heat. It's got all of the bad things that you could do to an oil that we've designed that product to deal with. So again, high-end base oils, the proper additive package, it's wet clutch compatible, it's set to go.
Now, that's got to be able to withstand all that stuff. We're talking about clutches as well. I know we did a dirt bike series way before, but clutch feel is going to be a factor when it comes to this oil.
It is. This is the would be the heaviest in the grip side of things, so it would be an MA2. So you get a real nice positive clutch feel with this particular product.
And I have gears as well, and I have a clutch. I have all kinds of things going on inside of there. So It's a pretty robust oil.
It has to be, and you get into the mechanical shear with the transmission where it's chopping up that oil and it tends to thin out. And we know that thin oil doesn't do a good job of protecting, so it has to maintain its viscosity.
Well, you guys got a ton of metric bikes out there, so go ahead to the Amsoil website at amsoil.com. Check out all their cool products and the science behind it.
This Camaro RS SS belongs to our paintedautoparts.com Motorhead of the Week, Mike Heinen. over in the western part of Iowa. Now, Mike paid $500 for this car in 1980, and I'd say it's worth a little bit more than that now. And then there's this 55 Chevy. Mike found this one on eBay. Then, after he bought it, he learned the history. This car was raced in the 60s and 70s by a guy named Ivan Hamblin and his family, with dozens of engine combinations through the years. Now, Mike has carried on that tradition. He's still racing that 55 Chevy at Ottawa Dragway. That's a great new dragway up in Iowa. Mike told me he was just 10 or 12 when he fell in love with his brother's 33 Ford Coupe, and later he turned that affinity for cars into a career as a body man, and all of this makes him a very deserving Motorhead of the Week. Now it's your turn. Tell us why you or someone you know should be Motorhead of the Week. Just go to motorheadgarage.tv. Tell us the story. Maybe you like cars, maybe you like boats or planes, something that goes fast, something that goes. Maybe you're just a fan of the show. You're well deserving of Motorhead of the Week. Hey, I tell you what, we're going to give you the rest of the week off, but of course we're going to return next week with another edition of Motorhead Garage presented by DragonfireTools.com. We surely hope you join us then. In the meantime, if you have a product you want to see featured on the show, drop me a note, dave@motorheadgarage.tv. Until next time, from our entire crew here at Motorhead Garage, we'll see you next week. Oh yeah, drive safely.